We are live in the WFRV Digital Center breaking down really a historic day in the NBA down in the Orlando bubble. The Milwaukee Bucks boycotting Game 5 of the Eastern Conference first-round playoffs between the Bucks and the Magic today in response, in protest to the Jacob Blake police shooting in Kenosha, Wisconsin earlier on this week. Matt Reynoldson joined here by Eric Boynton. And Eric, this is really a historic day. Just kind of break down everything we've seen today so far as the NBA really taking a seismic shift to protest this police brutality situation.
Well, I mean, it kind of all hit right before the Bucks were supposed to play in the first game this afternoon, and according to the reports, they basically refused to come out of the locker room after having a very serious discussion about whether or not to play the game. Obviously, really over the last day, you've kind of heard the Celtics and the Raptors talking about doing this. It seems very appropriate that the team closest to Kenosha, the Bucks, are the first ones to do it, and you're kind of seeing the rest of the NBA kind of fall in line and follow that lead as we go.
Now we're kind of backtracking a little bit here to the origins of the NBA social justice protests. They've been very active, especially this summer with the May killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis. These players have been on the front lines of the protests. Former Buck Malcolm Brogdon leading one of those in Atlanta. You know, you see players all around the NBA, but this has gone back even farther than that, from the Bucks to current Buck Sterling Brown, his situation in 2018. Eric, that was well publicized at the time. Sterling Brown experiencing some of those things himself.
It was. I mean, even it goes beyond police, but you had John Henson, his experience in Whitefish Bay before that. So, who is no longer on the team, but they definitely do have a connection to these issues. When you talk about the protests, you also had Giannis out there leading protests in Milwaukee. So this is very personal to these guys, and obviously hitting very, very close to home. And they're making their stance right now. I mean, they're not talking to the media as they leave the arena today, but I think they've made their statement on where they are and what they think needs to change, obviously. And the rest of the league, like I said, you're seeing like LeBron James tweeting out, we're not going to repeat what LeBron tweeted out.
Yeah, a little profanity
but
there.
I mean, he's making a statement, and reportedly those games too will also be boycotted today. So LeBron James and Giannis are the ones boycotting. That says a lot.
Now, for the questions about what the Bucks are trying to accomplish with these things, obviously Kenosha being just about 40 or 45 minutes south of Milwaukee, very much close to that Milwaukee metro there. So it hits very close to home, like you said, Eric, to these Milwaukee Bucks. What they're trying to accomplish with that, well, we're getting reports from inside the locker room that the Bucks are trying to reach out to the Wisconsin Attorney General in this situation, and that's kind of following some of these plans of action that NBA players have put in place.
Yeah, and I mean that's a big thing. Like, they're actually trying to make big change here. They're, like I said, they're not talking to the media, but I think in their mindset they don't need to, and they're trying to. When you're trying to talk to the Wisconsin Attorney General, they're trying to do things that go well beyond playing basketball, and so obviously the big question now is what goes on with games tomorrow. Where do we go from here, and what impact does this have? That's obviously what these guys want going forward.
Well, it's a wide-ranging impact as far as the NBA, bringing you into kind of the basketball weeds with this one. The Bucks did walk off the court with 3 minutes and 56 seconds left on the clock before game time. That game was supposed to tip off shortly after 3 p.m. today in the Orlando bubble. The Magic, right before tip-off, followed them into the locker room, and reports have come out that the Magic will not accept the Bucks' forfeit in this game. Obviously, if the 4 remaining teams that are set to play today do also boycott as well, it puts the NBA into a bit of a rescheduling situation, but I don't think we're going to see any forfeits today, Eric.
I don't think so either. The last thing that I've seen, been checking even all the way up until we've been talking, that the NBA is preparing a statement. They will have a statement coming out very soon on what they're going to do. This is unprecedented. This is sports history in this country, to have all of these teams boycott playoff games, and now the league kind of has to figure out what are we going to do about playing games. And do you still play Game 5? You just slide it? What about paying? There are so many issues that they have to figure out right now, and it's just something that maybe nobody's ever had to deal with. So they're kind of trying to learn as they go and craft a statement and see what they're going to do.
Resetting with you here, Matt Reynolds and Eric Boynton, part of the Local 5 sports team here in Green Bay, talking about a historic Milwaukee Bucks protest today, boycotting Game 5 of the first round of the Eastern Conference playoffs against the Orlando Magic. Now, protests not new to the NBA this summer. We've seen it from the very beginning in the Orlando bubble. The Black Lives Matter shirts in warm-ups, all teams, all players are wearing those, these social justice statements on the backs of the jerseys, and Eric as well, the protests of the national anthem, with kneeling during the national anthem, and I shouldn't say protests of the national anthem, just protests during the national anthem, and that sort of symbolic statement that these NBA players have made. It's really been interesting to see the dynamic down there, and how much do you think the NBA has sort of streamlined this to where players can make their voices heard and still feel comfortable playing basketball despite the social climate that we're in?
I mean, Adam Silver and the league have really allowed their players to have their voice, and I mean, it put Black Lives Matter right on the center of the court,
right
down in Orlando. They have definitely, when it comes to the sports leagues, have really been at the forefront and encouraging their players to have a voice and to use it. And today, they are really using their voice and really making sports history. Like we said, this has never happened before in sports history, and this is something that is going to reverberate in sports for a long time.
It could reverberate with the Brewers as well. The Josh Hader, the fantastic closer for the Milwaukee Brewers, saying just a few minutes ago that there will be team discussions on a possible boycott of tonight's home game. So we'll see how that plays out. Obviously, very connected with the Bucks organization, two Milwaukee teams there. But if the Brewers postpone tonight, I mean, what kind of wide-ranging impacts could this have throughout Major League Baseball?
I mean, it's so hard to tell because baseball plays so many games, and
True.
You're talking about playoff games, and it's a little easier at this point, I think, for basketball to just kind of slide a little bit. Even if they had just kind of postponed things, and they have the boycott and they just slide. Baseball, I mean, you can always make up things with a doubleheader. They could easily do that tomorrow.
Sure.
Just do a doubleheader with the Reds before they leave town. So that is completely in the realm of possibility. I don't see a situation where that can't happen, where baseball will still try and get in every game. It's just a matter of, do they follow the Bucks' lead in making that statement?
So a unique situation we're watching with the Brewers here, but obviously, recapping one more time, the Bucks with a historic decision to boycott a playoff game, leading to the boycotts of the Orlando Magic, their opponent in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference first round, and then two more games in the NBA bubble today. We'll have much more coverage on this coming up at 4, 5, and 6, and obviously 10 o'clock on WFRV, so keep it tuned to your television dials there. But for Eric Boynton, I'm Matt Reynolds. Thanks for joining us.